Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine. This podcast is sponsored by BoomCloud Dental Membership Software, www.boomcloudapps.com, and Veritas Dental Resources, www.veritasdentalresources.com. Enjoy the show.
All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of our Say No to PPOs podcast series. This is the Navigating Dental Insurance podcast. We use Say No to PPOs as the series to grab the attention of doctors. It seems to be a hot topic in the industry. This is in no way for us to boycott insurance, more so to provide good and great education on how to deal with the day-to-day problems. So today we have my co-host Jordan Comstock. How's it going, Jordan?
Yo, Ben, doing good, man.
Very good. Very well. And we also have our honorary podcast host, Tessina Barney. How's it going, Tessina?
Hi, guys. I'm good.
I feel like we should give you one of those, those graduation robes with one of those hats and tassels. You've graduated the podcast in terms of being a very frequent guest. And this is at request from a lot of the listeners. They say, man, Tessina and Angie are both wonderful and great. We'd love to hear more about them.
Yes.
So before we get into the content of the podcast today, which we're going to be answering questions from our listeners, want to talk with just chat with Tessina for a bit here. Tessina has been involved with a lot of great things that are going to impact dentistry at the national level. And the first one that I want to talk about, Tessina, if it's okay with you, is so you're working with Utah Dental United, which is an independent practitioner association in the state of Utah. Will eventually be spread to other states. So tell us a little bit about your role there. What you've been up to?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited that they brought me into this, and that we've got some really good goals lined out. One, of course, the top goal, right, is negotiating some fee schedules to get better reimbursement rates for these doctors as a group as a whole. So that's the top thing that we've been tackling there. But they've got so many great plans for some other things, one of them being me going out and doing some one-on-one training, as we do here on the podcast, and explaining how to do these appeals, how to use the insurance commissioner, how to bill the right way the first time. Some of these offices, Ben, as you know, we looked at these, their fees that they were billing were so low that the insurance company didn't want to offer them a higher rate. So we kind of had to work with these offices on getting them to bill the appropriate fees so that then they could request the appropriate fees.
Isn't that really interesting?
Yeah.
I mean, even for you, Jordan, I mean, if a doctor comes in and they're at the 20th percentile of their fees, and then you're asking them to put another discount together for a membership program, it just doesn't really work.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's surprising to me that fee schedules, the most obvious aspect of the business that needs to be right, is not right at over, I would say, more than 50% of the practices out there. Don't look at their fee schedules the way they should be. Anyway, continue, Tessina. So
I got a question
sorry, go
about
ahead.
that. So
Yeah.
do you think, Ben, most practices out there, or what you've seen, is their fees are a lot lower than what they should be? Is that what?
Oh,
what
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
They should look at that at a yearly. I mean, at least when I was managing, the lab, we looked at our pricing. Obviously, it's different than a dentist, but we'd look at it yearly and increase costs if they needed to be. But is that something that a practice should be doing on a yearly basis?
Yeah, yearly or twice a year. I mean, you look at every other industry, the airline industry, those prices change all the time.
True. Yeah.
The oil industry is a huge contributing factor to controlling costs in so many different areas, from cosmetics to you name it, fuel. But dentistry and medicine is in the same category. I firmly believe that those fees should be assessed when the markets change, and the markets change every single year. Heck, the mortgage rates change daily and sometimes multiple times during the day. But you don't have to do that in the dental office. I think every year you should assess your fees according to market standards.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good tip.
100%.
Yeah. So Tessina, what else? So some highlights is she's working with UDU, Utah Dental United, on negotiating fees in a legal way on behalf of the membership pool there.
Yeah.
And then what else you have going there?
So also, I've been working with a company called EPM. They do online practice management training. And I've not actually heard of them before, but I guess they're kind of still new in what they're creating here. But they walked me through it. It's pretty cool stuff. Basically, you have a training module that can be just on the computer at the office, and the staff can go on just 10 to 15 minutes when they have a little bit of downtime here and there and take a little training course. And there's so many training courses and for all the different areas, and you can have everybody cross-trained, or you can have just them trained on the one thing that you want them to really focus on. But it's a big course. It's not a 10 or 15 minutes course. It's like a 2-hour course, but they can do it and pass off with quizzes, within a 10-minute block. So it's realistic. We know we don't have 2 hours to sit down and do a course, but we could maybe get 10 minutes here or there. So I like that it's realistic, and they're really touching on making sure that their training level is meeting the bar, making sure that they're training the need-to-know stuff and that all of their paperwork has all the proper legal wording. So I wrote a course for them, or am working on a course with them to do like an insurance coordinator training.
Oh, very cool.
So,
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, we got into that, and then he's like, wait a minute, shouldn't we go over this in the accountant manager's part? And I said, well, yeah, and we just start realizing how much of it all ties into each person in each role. It all ties together, and so really everybody should be cross-trained.
Yeah. I mean, it's all connected within the dental business. And that's really great. I wanted the listeners to know your background. A lot of these things just transpired since the first time you were invited on the podcast. And I just wanted to demonstrate at least to show the listeners that Tessina is in high demand. You can hire her directly, which many of you
Tessina.
have. I know, but she's a wealth of knowledge, and we're privileged to have her on the program again today. So we're going to answer a lot of the top questions that were emailed to us from the guests. And we have a ton of them. So we're going to get started here. The first question is all about pre-Ds, predeterminations, or pre-authorizing benefits, or whatever you call that function within the dental practice. One of the listeners asked, is pre-authorization or pre-authorizing benefits a waste of time? All PPOs don't guarantee coverage, even with a pre-D. Is this necessary or not? Tessina, what's your take on that?
So I'll kind of go a little bit back and forth on this. Ultimately, is it a waste of time? Yes.
I agree.
They don't guarantee, and they'll tell you right there while they're doing the pre-auth and on the paperwork of the pre-auth, oh, this is not a guarantee. We can change our mind at any point in time, and we have that right. And so it is kind of a waste of time, but I will tell you there is a time and a place for it. This is where I'm going to go back a little bit. So if you're presenting a really large cosmetic case to a patient, which most offices don't, or insurances don't do cosmetic, but if you bill it right, you can get it covered. But if you're billing a large case or a case that a patient's really uneasy about, doing that pre-auth gives the patient a sense of comfort. And I would still explain to them that it's not a guarantee. They don't have to own up to it. But also, when they do come back and try to deny the claim that you did have a pre-D on, how easy is it to go back, give them their copy of the pre-auth and say, no, you said this would be covered. And more times than not, they'll reprocess it and it'll be paid.
Yeah. There was a news report here on KSL, our version of our local NBC channel. And they did this exact thing where it was a Delta. No, was it Delta or Humana? It was one of the two insurance carriers. The office did a pre-authorization, and it was a pretty big case. And the insurance carrier came back and denied it. Well, the patient took that to the insurance commissioner. Insurance commissioner sent it to the insurance company. And in this situation, the insurance carrier has rights. I mean, they have it disclosed right there that on their website that
they do.
This pre-authorization, I mean, we can give you your pre-D, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee benefits. And the insurance commissioner really forced the insurance carrier to say, hey, if you're going to give patients and doctors the expectation that this is a benefit that's going to be covered during that phone call, you better cover it. So they did that. The insurance company, going back to using the insurance commissioner effectively, I mean, if I firmly believe that you should always do pre-authorization, especially for bigger cases. And here's another reason why. Almost every insurance carrier has a policy that says if you've pre-authorized benefits, you've completed a pre-D, you've completed the treatment, and you submitted that claim, and you had a financial arrangement with the patient that said we did everything that we could within our power, what we know on how to get this claim covered, and then you perform treatment, and the insurance company comes back and says this is denied. If you have a direct payment relationship with the patient that says if the treatment is denied for whatever reason that we can't control, you're still responsible for that fee. So we had a situation in Pennsylvania where an office was going back and forth with United Concordia because the representative was under the impression that if we deny it, if United Concordia denies a claim, the patient pays zero. And I said, no. There was a financial arrangement in place beforehand. Can you find the policy in your books that supports that? And they eventually did. They found a policy that clearly stated that if you follow all the right steps, and doing a pre-D was one of them, and the claim comes back denied, as long as there's a financial arrangement and disclosure to the patient that if insurance doesn't cover, the patient pays for it, the patient isn't off the hook. So a couple ways of getting that covered. Number one, you can petition the insurance commissioner, or you can go after the patient directly. It's not going to make the patient happy, but it's not your fault as a dental office. Yeah. Anything to add there, Jordan, Tessina?
No, I'm good.
No, I think we covered it.
Yeah. I thought it was great.
Heck, if everybody was on a membership program, you'd have to worry about all this crap.
Exactly. That is the truth right there. No pre-op needed.
Yeah. Every time I hear you guys are the insurance specialists, right? I like hear all your guys' conversations. I'm like, man, this is just a big hassle all the time.
Yeah, your life is great, Jordan. Shame on you for not being involved at this level.
So, I got a next question here on our list. So how should a practice bill insurance when they hire an associate?
So by law, they have to, each doctor working and providing treatment needs to be credentialed. Well, not by law they have to be credentialed, but you have to bill on the claim who the treating dentist was, and then you can also bill who the billing dentist is. They don't have to be credentialed. They could process out of network, but you have to list the treating dentist who he was. Otherwise, what most offices are doing, Ben, you can tell me if you agree with this or not, they're bringing on associates but then billing under just the billing doctor. And that can get you in a little bit of trouble.
That's right. Most offices get in the habit of billing under the owner's tax ID license number, and they don't really realize, that's the industry standard. That's what goes on today. There have been some recent lawsuits in some states where either an associate or a new owner would use the seller or the owner's tax ID information, and then the associate got into some malpractice trouble or complaint. When the regulators come in, they're going to want to see some things. If they see there that an owner is being used for billing and the owner is not on site, that's a violation. That's considered insurance fraud.
Really?
It is. If the owner's, you can. Yep. So here's the appropriate form. I mean, when you take yourself back to dental school, or even in residency programs, where you perform the work as a student or a resident, and the work is always billed out under the attending doctor or under the teacher's license number. Now, that's totally appropriate and totally fine. I deal with a bunch of dental schools on issues like this. But when you carry that over to the dental practice, and if you, as the owner, are going to be appearing on the claims form, you have to have what's referred to as an attending doctor policy. Now, I talk to our attorneys about this. I have to be very careful with what I say here. And just throw a disclosure out there that this is from our attorneys. So you need to, if you're going to apply this, you have to speak with your own attorney on this advice, because our attorneys will only represent us. But this in no way is a legal statement. But if you're going to bill the owner's name for work that the associate does, number one, you have to have an attending doctor policy that specifically cites and states that the owner doctor is the doctor of record for all the patients. Number two, the owner doctor will always be there on site to monitor, supervise, coach, and provide guidance and approve any form of treatment being offered. And then number 3, the associate or the doctor performing the work fully understands that they're providing the care under the supervision of the owner doctor or the attending doctor. Without those key components in place, you can get into really big trouble if you're billing as an associate using the license number of another doctor, if that doctor's not there, and especially if there's no agreement in place.
So like a good example, Ben, if like a dentist owns a practice and then maybe he's not working as a dentist, but he's as an owner and he hires associates, that's a good reason. That's a good example where they can get in trouble, right? If the associate is billing through the owner doctor.
Yeah, if the owner doctor, well, they'll get in trouble if the owner doctor's not there. If there's
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Maybe he owns like multiple practices and he's not there all the time, or not practicing in that location.
Yeah. Yeah,
okay,
it's as simple as being able to demonstrate that you were there to supervise and approve and physically be able to examine patients whenever necessary. It's no different than when a young doctor comes out of school, applies to get credentialed with insurance, doesn't have a DEA certificate because that takes some time. So that doctor cannot prescribe medicine. But every insurance carrier is fine as long as there's an owner doctor there or a supervising doctor that can examine the patient needs, charts, notes, whatever's needed to issue a prescription. As long as somebody else is there to help with that's licensed to issue prescriptions, the insurance carriers are fine with that. So it's just a function of being there physically to demonstrate that you did perform any examination on the patient that was necessary or any type of physical supervision to make sure that appropriate care and protocols were being followed. And that's a key with insurance carriers. They're fine with that associate doing work if it's being billed out under the owner's name, but most of them will say you have to follow strict guidelines in terms of the associate being no different than an assistant in terms of assisting in care and not necessarily making their own decisions. So
right.
I hope I just didn't. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. And if you're not doing that, then we just need to be following the Type 2 NPI group, the group NPI number, and then the individual treating doctors and the billing doctor.
That's right. Yep. So I guess that brings up another topic, another question that we get asked all the time is, when do I need a Type 2 NPI or an organizational NPI? And I guess the rule of thumb on that, Tessina, is what? More than one doctor. If it's 2 doctors or more, insurance carriers require a Type 2 NPI. So if there's multiple doctors in the practice, it's best for you to be prepared with that Type 2 NPI in case insurance carriers require that for billing. Very good. Anything else on that, guys?
Yeah.
I thought that was good. I learned a lot there.
Okay. So here's another question. This one is a frustrating one. I get this question asked all the time. What happens when military plans in this case through United Concordia, pays less than the allowable and tells us to write off the rest? What are our options? Is that even right or legal? Question mark. What do you think, Tessina?
So,
Nice.
I mean, there's a kind of like a vast majority of things that could be going on here. So, I'm tempted to want to dive into that and just find out. And this is what they need to be doing at the office, is find out, do the work, do the legwork, find out why they're thinking they can do that. And I'll just say sometimes they're doing it on purpose, like they're filing the claim incorrectly. And if you call and say, what's going on here, why wasn't this billed under the correct fees, you guys need to reprocess this. They'll be like, oh, you called our bluff, like you caught us, we'll reprocess it.
Yeah.
But the thing is you're just getting the claim, and then you're like, oh, it says I have to write it off, so I have to write it off, and I just file it away. And you don't look at it, you don't read into it, you're not calling the insurance and questioning it. Why?
Yeah. Yeah. Always do your own research. Do your own due diligence here. I've had this exact situation, a couple of months ago with a client in Arizona. It was a crown. The allowable on the crown was $670 something, but United Concordia only paid $400 and something. And the interesting thing is that this doctor didn't bring this to my attention until over a year after this claim was actually paid. And so, according to certain states, or I don't know if it's a federal law, but you have up to 1 year to collect or correct or challenge a claim, and they were beyond that. And so, for this practice, they couldn't do anything about it. But long story short, we ended up finding out that the way they billed the claim wasn't according to United Concordia's process. So they processed the claim according to how they received it, and the practice had a different perception on what they were expecting in terms of compensation. So if you do your own research, but don't let those things go, because you let those things go, insurance carriers will get in the habit of, just thinking that you're okay with not getting paid what you should be getting paid,
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not going to call you and say, hey, we think maybe you billed this the wrong way. Let's get this corrected so you can get a better rate. They're not going to do that. They're hoping that you don't call. They're hoping that you don't catch the glitch. And most of the time, it's just an easy call that'll get it sorted out.
Yep,
that's
exactly.
Interesting. Okay, I got another question for you, Tessina. Are federal plans really exempt from non-covered service laws?
They are. They are exempt. There's a specific law. These are state laws is what you're talking about, the state law for the non-covered services. And so federal plans are exempt from that. That's meaning the self-funded plans as well. So not just like Blue Cross Blue Shield Federal or the retired programs. Any self-funded plan is also going to be exempt from those non-covered services.
Yeah. Yeah, I have some experience in that area too. What we typically do in situations like this, so that when an office challenges an insurance carrier like FEP through Blue Cross Blue Shield, they'll always come back and send you a copy of the federal law that says, actually, it says here in this federal law that we're exempt from state mandates regarding healthcare services. As oftentimes it's a good idea to have a direct financial relationship, a direct financial agreement with the patient. For a lot of these things, non-covered services, a good example is sealants on, what's the policy on adults with sealants, Tessina? On children,
so sealants aren't covered over the age of like 14, and they're usually on molars only. Yeah.
That's right. So sealants are often not covered for adults, and when you bill that to insurance, it's always going to be kicked back as denied. But if it's a straight PPO, you can collect up to your standard office fee, your full office fee, if you're in a state that has a non-covered service law. But we had situations where Humana, a federal plan, would come back and say, no, this is governed under the federal laws, and they're right. We've run that through the attorneys, and they said they're correct. There's nothing that we can do there. But in situations where a patient wanted sealants, and we would tell them, look, this is not covered by your insurance plan. You can choose to get this, but you have to. The only way that we're going to do it for an appropriate reimbursement to cover our costs is if you agree to not have this submitted to insurance. It's not covered anyway. If you're willing to pay for it out of pocket, that's great. So you have that law called the HITECH Act, which is a federal law. If a patient signs an insurance waiver and says, yes, I would love to get sealants, I agree to pay for them out of pocket, I understand it's not covered by my insurance, and I also agree to exempt the use of my insurance, which means that you don't have to bill the sealants to insurance. You can have a direct payment relationship with the patient in that way if you want to do things like that. Veneers are another thing. There is just a ton of other areas of treatment that doctors don't do anymore because insurance pays insufficiently. But in this case, for non-covered services, you always have that option to get the insurance, the patient to sign an insurance waiver to give you legal permission to not submit it to insurance and therefore not be bound by the insurance rules and fees for that type of treatment. Anything else there, guys?
Well, I should say, with that letter, just so that the listeners know, this is something I use on a regular basis, and I don't have a problem with patients' willingness to do this. Would you agree? They're not going, wait a minute, what? I have to sign what? No, I don't want to do it. They're usually like, oh, yeah, no problem. I'll sign that. Let's do the work.
Exactly. It is all about the confidence in delivering it verbally to the patient and your presentation. And what I've learned in case presentation is when you have a concern about it, what's that called? The law of attraction. When you're concerned about it, all of a sudden somebody's going to pick up those negative emotions, and then they'll start to be concerned about it. you just got to approach situations like this with a great deal of confidence. You have to have a great trainer like Tessina, Jordan, or myself. That's not a pitch for you to come and hire us, but you just have to be very, very prepared and very confident in delivering things like that. Now, before we move on to the next question, I'm going to share one example. A client of mine in Tacoma, Washington. He listened to this part of our coaching training with him, and he said, "Wow, I can then start exactly with sealants." He's like, "I'm gonna just do the premolars and start from there." They started presenting this to adult patients, and every single adult patient agreed to pay the extra $400 out of pocket, and that was their full fee for the sealants. I mean, you can go more. Sealants can cost you $2,000 or more if you do every single tooth, but they just decided to start small. Applying that one concept and offering something that was huge in value in terms of giving patients some form of therapy or prevention against cavities that made total sense to the patient. This added almost $200,000 of extra revenue for the practice, spending maybe another minute or two explaining to the patients the benefits of having sealants. So anyway, if any of you are interested in any of those different areas, I mean, there's a number of areas that you can apply them, but just know that if there is a non-covered service law or not, you still have the HITECH Act that protects you in terms of getting patients to agree to an insurance waiver. Okay, moving on. So we have this other question here. So federal plans.
Build-ups?
Okay. So build-ups. So the question is, I don't bill build-ups because they are never covered by insurance anyway. Is that right or wrong?
Well, we know how I feel about this.
No, go ahead. You go ahead first.
So we've kind of touched on this before, and this is not just happening with build-ups. This happens with various, what some people are considering small charges, but they add up really fast.
Yeah.
But if you do a build-up and, sorry.
You're fine.
So if you do a build-up, then yes, definitely bill it out. On the initial claim, in the remarks, you need to state that the build-up was necessary for crown retention. In doing this, then you most likely will get it covered the first time around. If it comes back denied, appeal it, again, explaining that it, and you can put in there like the percentage of tooth loss. My doctor loves to do that.
Yeah.
And then for this reason, again, the buildup was required for crown retention. ADA states it's a separate code, so you can't consider it, in the fee with the crown. And then I usually like to say I expect this to be reprocessed immediately for payment, or I'll file a complaint with the insurance commissioner. And then you get it paid within a week or two.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like Tessina's threats. If you don't pay this, I'm going to slit your throat, kind of deal.
And you know what? It's not a threat. It's not a threat. It's a promise.
It is.
Yeah. That's a better way to look at it.
It's not just tongue in cheek. I'm not just saying, hey, this is not a threat. This is, I will hold down to it. I will file that complaint, and then they will be sorry.
Yep.
Yes, they will.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that assessment. The other thing that I'll add, just my 2 cents here, is when you don't bill the buildups, you're lowering the percentage of utilization on buildups for that area. So insurance carriers look at the percentage of buildups, and many doctors don't submit them. So naturally, insurance carriers think, well, the buildups aren't required. And if you're billing the buildups even 20% of the time in areas where most doctors aren't, they're going to think you're overbilling. So they use that as statistics. But the other thing that you want to keep in mind is that even though insurance carriers use things like that as statistics, that doesn't necessarily mean that the patient doesn't need a buildup. So challenge those things. Another example is another client in Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, said that they've been coached by people such as Dr. Gordon Christensen, that their hygiene department for perio, people in perio maintenance or anything in that perio category, that at least 30% of their patients should be in that, 30% of the practice should be in that perio category. And they were at 22%. Once they reached 23%, the insurance carrier came back and said, you're overutilizing perio, you're overdiagnosing perio. And this office challenged the insurance carrier, sent them a letter and says, you realize that the CDC says that over half of the adult patients have gum disease, and went through all these statistics that the Periodontal Organization Association agrees with me that the percentage should be higher. The insurance carrier called back with their attorney and basically employed a power play and says that if you don't drop this, we're going to sue you.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Ridiculous.
So I know. I advised him. I said, try to legally record that conversation if you can.
Yeah.
But take notes, take the name of that attorney, and report them to the insurance commissioner and even the attorney general for bullying. I mean, that is completely unethical for somebody to call and engage. In the legal world, they call it a power play. Yeah. And a power play is essentially a non-court ordered attempt to cease and desist, to force somebody to agree to a cease and desist. And you really don't have to listen to them. I mean, I can count. I mean, I can't count anymore how many lawsuits that I've received over the years from various different insurance carriers. And they were all power plays. None of them came from a judge. So the attorneys, that's why I have attorneys on retainer. You sue me, and my gatekeepers are the attorneys, and they always say, ignore this. We'll take care of it. Don't worry. So just put yourself in those shoes there, that you don't have to give in to the power plays, and most certainly do what Tessina does and hold their feet to the fire. Give them a promise. Give them a threat, a really big threat in the form of a promise that you're gonna report them. And Tessina is an attestament that that's true, and we have several clients that will tell you that Tessina's process is 100% effective. All right.
That's awesome. Next question. What's next? Got it here. Let's see. Okay. Next question is, I'm looking to drop PPO plans and listen to the podcast with Bill Rossi. I can't afford a professional consultant at the time, but really want to get out of these freaking PPOs. I added that. What advice do you have in dropping plans? What's the first step?
Yeah, well, this is, treading some dangerous waters here a little bit, right, Ben? Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. I think, number one, if you don't have that great a cash flow and you want to drop PPO plans, you might want to reassess the business. I recommend perhaps contacting Dental Intel to do a complimentary practice snapshot, because to me, it doesn't seem like dropping PPO is going to help you. And Tessina, do you have experience with practices that drop PPOs without having appropriate training
and strategy? Right?
Yeah, there's kind of a myth, right, a little bit with this, saying that the reason that, pinning all your reasoning on why your practice is suffering is because you're with these PPOs. That can't be the only reason. That's going to be a myth right there. That's not the real problem. So you pull those PPOs, and in doing so, you might also be losing a lot of patients. You don't have the proper systems in place, the proper training in place to carry that over in a healthy way that will grow your practice. Instead, it might cause the end of your practice.
That's right. Yeah. I'll throw an example. I had a client early in my career. I had a client in the Biltmore area of Phoenix, Arizona, and they decided to drop MetLife without even consulting me. They just felt that it would be a great idea. Yeah. So they dropped MetLife, and about a month or two later, they came back to me freaking out, saying, Ben, we're losing every single last one of our MetLife patients. And I went to their office and I looked at their numbers, and they were down big time revenue. And they didn't have a process. They just felt that this write-off is so low, but we're just going to drop them just because we hate them. We don't like them at all. We don't like the payment. We don't like dealing with them.
No strategy whatsoever.
Exactly. So here's the strategy from MetLife. What MetLife did is, once they received that termination letter, they wrote letters to every single patient for the last 5 years that received that they paid a claim on for that tax ID.
Wow.
They sent letters to them that listed 20 other practices within a half a mile radius that was an in-network participating provider with MetLife. So the patients didn't even come back. They canceled their appointments, and they went to that other practice because they were told that they could no longer go and see this doctor. This was over $300,000 worth of revenue for this practice, and that was
Wow.
more. That was more than what the doctor took home for personal, his personal pay. So to prevent that from happening, I told him, look, you guys got to re-up with United Concordia to stop the bleeding, because you don't have the way you approached it was just incorrect, and you learned the hard way that you have to have a strategy in place to combat what the insurance carrier strategy is when anybody goes out of network. They're gonna go after your patients, and they're gonna try to steer them to another in-network provider. So, so for that doctor that asked that question, I agree with Tessina. Look deeper into your numbers. Contact Dental Intel. Tell them that I referred you, or any of us, Tessina, Jordan, or myself, and ask for a free practice snapshot. They'll go through the numbers, and they're smart enough at Dental Intel to know exactly what the problems are from a numbers perspective and give you better advice. And then when you get that, just give Tessina a call. She'll help you from there, right, Tessina?
Yes, definitely.
All right. Okay, what's the next question? We got one more question. For the interest of time, we'll just take one more. So the last question here is purchasing a dental office that is 100% PPO practice. When should I get started on the credentialing process, or should I even join the same plans that the seller participates with?
Interesting.
Yeah, that is a really interesting question. So let me understand. They're purchasing a dental office that is with the PPO plans, and they're going to be a dentist themselves?
Yep. So they're going to take over as a new owner.
Okay.
The practice is 100% PPO, and the owner doctor, the seller doctor, does participate with every single PPO plan that's out there. So this doctor just wants to know what to do.
Yeah. And I'll give my personal opinion here, and then maybe Ben can. But I would say do the credentialing right now. I mean, that takes a long process. I would start that. As to whether or not joining the PPOs, I would at first. These patients that he's taking over don't know him. They haven't built a relationship with him. Yeah. He's a complete stranger. So get with those PPOs. You can drop them later. Get with the PPOs, get credentialed, build a relationship with these people, start educating your patients with your trained staff, and then start dropping out the ones that are unacceptable.
Wow, you gave the exact same answer that I was going to give. Sometimes on these phone calls, I was hoping to have something here that you and I disagreed on, so that we can go back and forth again. But then you're absolutely right. The most important thing in the transition is retaining as much as a value as you can from whatever you're purchasing. I know you might be purchasing at a discounted rate, but you still want to retain the value. And then what I often see is a new owner would come in, and the team would not know about the transition until the day of the sale. And then the new owner comes in, is completely out of network, hasn't even notified any insurance carrier. Then they start billing insurance, and then they don't get any money paid from the insurance. The insurance is saying, well, we don't recognize this doctor, and we don't recognize this tax ID, so here's a bunch of paperwork that you need to fill out. So you have this frustrating process where claims are being processed out of network. Patients are being told by their insurance carrier that they owe more than they used to owe, or whatever you quoted them under in-network terms. So you have to prepare for that. You have to have a strategy in place and then do what Tessina says: get credentialed ASAP with these plans, all of the plans that the seller takes, and then you can start to pare back maybe 6 months to a year after you've been introduced to that patient base. Now, a lot of people disagree with that advice. And what I'll tell you is those that disagree with that advice, I think they have some valid points too, because what the other approach is, let's go in and take the top plans, the plans that represent most of the patients, and then let's spend $6 to $20,000 in marketing to get more new patients. That approach works well if you have the working capital. But I'd say 95% of the people that I work with, the banks don't give them the working capital, and the dentists aren't willing to reach into their savings account and may not have the money there to spend on marketing. So the quickest way to retain the value of the practice is just to mirror the PPO structure of the seller, and then do what Tessina says. You can then start dropping them, but after you've been introduced to those patients, or at least the majority of them.
Interesting.
You're going to want this transition to be really smooth, and not just for your patients, but for the staff as well. Because if the staff is feeling frustrated and they're feeling uncomfortable, that's going to, the patients can see that. Your staff might leave because they're frustrated, or they're going to stay because they don't want to find another job. But then patients come in, they're like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. This new guy came in. And so the patients can see that the staff doesn't trust the new guy. And, it could be a big mess. I would get in and start making everything set up so it could go so smooth and everybody feels so comfortable. And then you can make your changes once everybody's on board with you being in charge.
I agree. Well, thank you, Tessina.
Tessina.
We're ending this podcast on May 17, 2017, and there's snow outside my window. Crazy.
What the heck, man?
Disappointing.
It's messed up here.
Yeah. I'm moving back to Arizona. That's it. I'm done with this winter.
We gotta go on vacation.
Then it gets too hot there in Arizona.
I don't care at this point. I want my garden in. I want air. I want sun.
Too. I'm the same way. Sun. Yeah. I like the warmth. I think I can handle Arizona, but last time I was there, I felt like I would melt in my car. It was so hot.
Yeah. Well, folks, if you have questions for us that you want for us to answer on any future episodes, just send us an email. We're going to post all of our contact information in the show notes, including Tessina's email and phone number if you have a question for her directly. But Jordan, Tessina, thank you so much for being on the program today. You both stay warm out there, and both have a great day.
All right. See you, man.
Hey. Bye-bye.
Thanks again for tuning in. Hey, if you have any friends who want to learn more about the stuff that we talk about, please let them know that we exist. Referring your friends to saynotoppos.com is the best way you can show your support for us. However, if you don't like the podcast, we'll give you a full refund. Also, let us know if you want to hear anything new or something that we haven't covered just yet. Try to keep the topics to PPOs as that's our area of expertise and things that we know the best. Just email me at help@veritasdentalresources.com. Veritas is spelled V as in Victor, ERITAS, veritasdentalresources.com. I will post that on the show notes, so if you're driving, please don't take your hands or eyes off the road. Thanks again for all your support, and we wish you the best of success. Signing off from Salt Lake City, Utah, this is Ben Tuine on behalf of my good colleague, Jordan Comstock.